Cantarella is coming back soon in the second half of the version 2.5 update. But now after the release of Phrolova, has anything changed about her status in the meta? And is she actually worth pulling now? In this video, I'm going to be talking about Cantarella's biggest pros and cons so you can decide whether it's worth to pull for her. The biggest pro that Cantarella has to her favor right now is that she is the best in slot teammate within the Phrolova team. While the best current Phrolova team consists of both Cantarella as well as Rochia, Cantarella is the less replaceable one of this combo, because Cantarella has a lot of things within her kit that just make Phrolova tick a lot better than Rochia does. First of all, Rochia within the Phrolova team has the primary purpose of actually buffing Cantarella's damage output. Rochia, because her Ultra skill buffs Havoc and basic attacks, is a perfect fit to buff Cantarella within the Phrolova team. And also, Rochia does have one Echo skill cast of her own, but it's not really that big. Cantarella, however, has a lot more utility that she brings to the table. First of all, Cantarella's Ultra skill is about the best thing that you're going to be able to get for your Phrolova, because Phrolova is obviously a Havoc character as everyone knows, but additionally, she also does primarily skill damage whenever she is on the field. I'm specifying when she is on the field, because when she is off-field, she is not able to benefit from any sort of Ultra skill, except for Shorekeeper, Verena, and Baizia, because these Ultra skills will expire whenever Phrolova swaps off. So Cantarella being able to buff skill damage is one of the best things that she can do for an on-field Phrolova. Additionally, Phrolova's summon will do an enhanced attack whenever an Echo skill is triggered. This also counts for any sort of ability that counts as casting an Echo skill, which Cantarella has absolutely no shortage of. Cantarella has a bunch of abilities that will count as Echo skill casts, those being her skills as well as her Resonance Liberation, giving you a total of 3 Echo skill casts per rotation. This also means that you get free enhanced attacks from Hecate just for doing Cantarella's rotation. This combined with the fact that Cantarella has a near perfect Ultra skill for Phrolova, gives you the least replaceable character within the Phrolova team aside from Phrolova herself. So if you are actually a Phrolova main, Cantarella is a very good pickup for your team. The next thing that I wanted to talk about for Cantarella's favor is the fact that she is capable of healing teammates. The ability to heal is becoming more and more relevant because it seems that Kuro is trying to phase out characters like Shorekeeper and Verena that are able to heal and work universally. So now they are putting more and more healing abilities on sub-DPS characters, and Cantarella is one of these characters. If you no longer want to use characters like Shorekeeper or Verena in the team, and you're not that good at dodging, you're gonna need to get your healing from somewhere, and Cantarella is one of the better sources of healing within the game that isn't a generalist healer. She is capable on healing on all of her Forte basic attacks, as well as some of her skills. So she definitely heals you enough. Sure, she doesn't heal you at all from off-field, and her healing is not that good of someone like a Shorekeeper or a Verena, but her healing is definitely good enough to the point where with some decent gameplay, you should be completely fine with just Cantarella keeping you alive. Like I said earlier, Kuro is really trying to phase out characters like Shorekeeper and Verena, and they did this by giving healing to sub-DPS characters and making the third slot character a more powerful character than someone who has universal buffing. For example, they did it in the Cardathea team, where instead of Shorekeeper or Verena, you'd rather run Arrow Rover for the increase in arrow erosion stacks. They did it in the Triple Havoc team by making sure that you kind of want Echo skill casts for Hecate's enhanced attacks. And obviously, characters like Shorekeeper and Verena do not have Echo skills within their own kit. And they also did it with the Mono Fusion team by simply creating a massive source of buffing in the form of Lupa. So this means that in any future team where you kinda just don't want to run a Shorekeeper or a Verena, you can very easily just put a Cantarella in there as long as you want to buff skill damage. That's about it for positives for Cantarella, so let's talk a bit about her negatives. And the first thing I wanted to talk about is that outside of the Phrolova team, Cantarella isn't actually best in slot or even second best in slot in any teams. This is for a variety of reasons. But first, I want to talk about the fact that within the role of buffing resonance skill, she is severely outclassed by multiple other characters, those being primarily Zhezha as well as Brandt. We have a couple of skill damage DPSs in the game, primarily Chongli, Jinshi, and Carlotta, and all of them prefer a different teammate to Cantarella. Zhezha is still the best in slot teammate for both Jinshi and Carlotta. For Carlotta, it's rather obvious. Not only is her Ultra skill just flat out better for Carlotta, but she also gives a free 15 energy to the next character, making it so Carlotta doesn't need to build any energy regen. For Jinshi, it's for very similar reasons that Zhezhi is the best in slot compared to Cantarella. However, it's not exactly the ending. While Cantarella's outro skill would be the exact same for Jinshi as Cantarella's would be, there is another flaw within Cantarella's kit that makes her rather hard to use with Jinshi. You see, Jinshi is a very unique character among the DPS class, because she has incredibly short rotations. And the way we get around this is by simply doing 2 of them. Now let me elaborate. The best way to play Jinshi is to start on your healer, then go to your sub DPS, then to Jinshi, then back to your sub DPS, then to Jinshi, and then you can go back to your healer. However, Cantarella's forte skill, Perception Drain, actually has a cooldown to how many times you can trigger it. So this means that you are unable to do this style of rotation when using Cantarella. This forces you to do a regular healer sub DPS Jinshi rotation. And not only does this make it harder for the healer because they usually have a 25-second cooldown, it's also just overall less damage per second, meaning that Zhezhi is still better than Cantarella within the Jinshi team. But what's even sadder is the fact that, because of this, Yinlin is also better within the Jinshi team. So not only does Cantarella get beaten by Zhezhi, she also gets beaten by Yinlin. However, because Brant simply has way higher personal damage than Cantarella, Brant is also better for this team. Which means that Cantarella as a consideration within the Jinshi team honestly just kinda shouldn't be there. For all the Havoc DPSs outside of Phrolova, there's also way better options. Not only does Camellia have the option to run Rochia and Sanhua, she also has Donjin, ultimately making it so Camellia Cantarella just shouldn't be considered for anyone. And Havoc Rover is a pretty similar story, where you kinda just prefer to run Donjin or Sanhua. Another negative for Cantarella is that in the one team where she is in fact the best in slot option, you still don't even need to have Cantarella, because Donjin is actually a pretty good option for your Phrolova. Phrolova is one of the more FTP friendly DPSs that we've had in a while, and Cantarella kinda needs Rochia in order to pop off a little bit more. Cantarella is getting a lot of help from Rochia buffing her damage output, so if you do not have Rochia in the team and are instead forced to use Shorekeeper, this lowers Cantarella's overall output, which means that she becomes a lot closer to Donjin because Donjin has simply a lot of benefits to the table. While Donjin's outro skill may not be as strong, her S6 also gives attack buffing towards Phrolova, which is very much appreciated. Cantarella also has a pretty long rotation, which Donjin does not suffer from, ultimately making it so Donjin simply brings you pretty similar DPS, assuming you're using a Phrolova and Shorekeeper team, which means that ultimately Cantarella becomes pretty replaceable within the Phrolova team. Of course, this changes when you have Rochia, as I said earlier, because the Cantarella Rochia team is quite a bit better than the Donjin Shorekeeper team. But if you do not have Rochia, Cantarella becomes rather replaceable. But that's just my opinion. What do you think of Cantarella? Let me know in the comments down below. And while you're down there, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, be sure to join my Discord, which is linked in the description. I'm pretty active in there, so there's a pretty good chance that I'll respond. Additionally, if you just want to see more of me as a person, you can also check the link in the description to see my second channel. I primarily post about punishing Grey Raven, but I kinda just make videos about anything. But that'll be all from me. Peace.